anyway, I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight to our third artist talk and exhibition. The artist tonight is someone we met because of the Speechless Film Festival. He was the subject of a documentary film last spring that was featured at our festival, and he was brought in to talk to the students and kind of be a celebrity on campus for a few days. And we liked his work, and we thought it would be interesting and fun to have him come back and talk about himself and show his work. And so, Kelly Ludeking is our artist, and he graduated from MCAD in 1997 with a BFA in Sculpture and Furniture Design. He co-founded Ironhead Sculptural Services in 2008, a traveling iron foundry. But he also teaches classes. He will allow people in on his pours. They can help and they can even create. He has an infectious attitude about his own art and about art in general and about bringing art to the people. And you can see his art is very evocative of something ancient or something found, and you have to kind of think about it for a while as you look at it. But anyway, please welcome Kelly Ludeking.
Thank you. I'm going to try to use this microphone stand if possible so I can have my hands free because I'm animated when I talk. All right, my name is Kelly Ludeking, and like he said, I graduated from MCAD in 97, but a lot of my past that I bring up, I grew up on a farm in northeast Iowa, and this is the farm. This is one of my friend's photographs of the farm that this is where I was at, my heart's still at, and I host an annual festival here every year, and you're going to see some slides probably from that in here. But I grew up working with my hands and building, and that is very much a part of who I am to the core. I am a process-driven artist because I love the creation, the building, and the making part of my work. It's very much as important as the work itself. But I'm going to start kind of going through it. You guys are going to get a show of where I started from MCAD to present, and then the movie's going to show at the very end of it, and then that's kind of like the most recent kind of step in my evolution, I guess, of where I'm at. And the movie's been great. It's helped get me out in front of a lot more people, which is very exciting for me because I have a message of wanting to just keep passing art on. I've had a lot of great masters and mentors. People teach me and train me how to do a lot of really cool stuff that I just can't contain that to myself. I have to keep passing this on and teaching and helping other people learn how to do this also. And it's not just teach people how to be a sculptor. I just want to teach people how to just be their own artist. Because not everybody's going to do what I want to do, but it is pretty cool, and it is playing with fire, which everybody I think really likes doing. So here we go. This is what got me from being, I started art school as a photographer, and I love photography still, but when I saw an iron pour for the first time and saw molten metal happen, man, I was hooked. I literally within 6 months of us actually seeing this, me and the rest of my crew, we actually built our own furnace and had hosted our own iron pour at the college. So this is our first iron pour at MCAD that ever happened because my friends and I loved this so much from seeing one event that we had to build our own furnace and start hosting them ourselves. And I haven't stopped doing this since 1994. I've been continually casting metal and training and teaching people how to do this. But in the beginning, we didn't know how to do it, and we were failing all the time and didn't really have somebody to teach us how to actually be iron casters. So we learned from the experience of lots of failure. And some of this was actually in front of these giant public events that the mutual friend that taught us how to do this guy Kurt Deerhog and John Poole and Wayne Potratz from the University of Minnesota, would host these huge festivals in the middle of nowhere and up in these community parks, and that's where this one is taking place, Herman Iron Pour, Herman, Minnesota. And so I learned community art right from the get-go of this process, of actually being out in the community and teaching other people that had no clue what I was doing, teach them how to make something, and that everybody has the potential to be an artist. slides are a little bit out of shape out here, but this is part of my process that I've been doing since Herman. Something I came up with, and a lot of these pieces that you see around me are made from this process, where I'm actually taking a piece of glass or a piece of styrofoam, something that has an interior void within the sculpture or within the piece, and I'm casting molten metal into these things. Well, everybody's like, well, how do you do that without the glass shattering? Well, we actually use silica sand that has a binder system in it that holds the sand together hard, almost like concrete, around the glass vase or the styrofoam that captures the basic shape of the piece, and I cast molten metal into this. And then we line them up and pour molten metal into these pieces, and part of my process is rolling these molds around, and basically while the metal is pouring out like this, and this is liquid, this is like 2,500 degree molten metal, which this is the part that I really love about casting, is seeing this stuff roll around and flow just like water, and it's just absolutely so gorgeous. And you're taking something, these are made from cast iron radiators, so think of the things that we actually heat our houses with, or cast iron frying pans that have cracks in them and damage, people give them to us. Bathtubs, cast iron bathtubs. This is what we're taking and melting down and made to look like water. And this is what it looks like. This piece here, this is a photo I took when I was early on, and I was so impressed that actually eventually I got a tattoo of that exact image. This is how much I love this. I've marked my body with this, with that image that I took years ago, and I have a tattoo here on my shoulder of that, and it's that important to my life. While I was at MCAD, another part of my study there was just welding and creating and building things. And my mentor, Michael Bigger, saw me in the photo lab taking pictures, but also in the 3D shop creating and doing things that not a lot of the students were doing, because I had a background on the farm building and fixing and maintaining machinery. He's like, you got a knack, not everybody has. You see things for what their potential is, not for what they are. And you could be a great sculptor. And so at that point, I basically aligned myself with him. And I still shot a little bit, but I dropped out of being a photo major and became a sculpture major. And this is actually one of my earliest pieces doing found object metal art. And that is big enough that the wingspan is actually a little bit bigger than my wingspan. I kind of a lot of times build things on a human scale or actual realism of what they would be. This would be about the size of a little larger than a draft horse. I think you can probably figure out what that is, I hope. Swan. My little bulldog, he was actually only this big, deceiving to the size of that up there, but and then I started getting commissions. People started asking me to actually build things for them. So this is the middle school in my hometown, asked me to come in and work with the kids, and this is one of my I love this kind of stuff because I actually got to go into the school, lay out on the parking lot in the schoolyard all the materials that I wanted to use to build this piece with, because I wanted the kids to come out and actually touch these pieces and look at them and figure out what they could become. Not for what they were, because these are a lot of farm kids, they know the parts, but to look at the pieces and be like, wow, that looks like that could be an arm, that could be a shield, that could be this. And then I had them go back into the classroom and sketch and draw what they thought this sculpture should look like. And so I had 20 variations of all those parts put together from a bunch of middle school kids. And it was really inspiring. So I actually hung those all up in my studio. So when I actually went to build him, it was all their ideas put together into this one sculpture. So it really becomes part of the community and part of the kids' pieces. And all the sculptural pieces that came out of there came from the local implement stores. So like John Deere, Case IH, the truck place that fixed all the semis and all the different parts were the places that donated all the materials. I got to go dumpster diving through these really great dumpsters of materials to actually build the parts. So it's actually constructed from the community, by the kids from the community. And I was just the kind of mediator actually putting it together. And then junior high, the high school got jealous because the middle school had a really cool sculpture in front of their place. So then the high school was like, well, we need something. So the high school actually commissioned me to do the same thing with their high school students, but this time I got to work with the welding class and the art class. And they wanted me to make something bigger than the 11-foot Viking I made. So So I'm like, well, you know, better than a Viking, you gotta go to Thor. So I did a 15-foot tall Thor sculpture for the front of the sports complex. And then my alma mater, MCAT, asked me to come back and actually do a public piece for the front of the college to inspire the kids. And at that time, I'd been looking at some pieces on my farm that I kept thinking, oh man, there's an elephant there, there's an elephant there. And I just had two of the pieces. And when MCAT asked me to come back and do that, I created this piece called In the Room. And he's 9 feet tall to his back. He's actually a life-size elephant. He's pretty big. And now, actually, he had a 2-year stint at MCAD, and then I got accepted into a show in Chicago at the Bridgeport Arts Center, and so he's actually living in Chicago right now. Ooh, sorry about that slide. This is actually where, after college, while I know how to build things, I know how to create things, this is actually the interior structure of a rainforest cafe mushroom. So it's a 19-foot mushroom. So I left college, and it's like, what do I do with a BFA in sculpture and furniture design? I don't know what to do now. And one of my professors was like, well, there's this company that does structural steel work and builds stuff for advertising companies, and you know, you could probably work there pretty easily. So I walked in, did some welding tests, and proved that within like 3 months, I was actually on the road installing rainforest cafe mushrooms all over the country, helping build them and help them. Man, these are old photos, but there you can kind of see what it is finished. But this companies that I started working for doing this were building all kinds of crazy big, huge structures. And I was loving it because I didn't go on to grad school right out of college because my professor was like, go out and live life and figure out if this is what you want to do. Because if you're going to teach art, go to grad school. If you're not going to teach art and you just want to like create and make your own stuff, go out and get an experience in life, and maybe you'll decide to come back and want to go to grad school and teach. I'm like, well, that's cool, it's valid. So I went out and basically studied under companies that were paying me money to learn how to do what they wanted me to do. And because of being a farm kid, I pick up things really fast. People could show me something once and I got it and I can work it and do it. On a lot of these companies, within the first 3 months of working for them, I'd become a foreman, or I'd become a job leader. I'd actually be out running the show on site, installing a lot of the stuff. So this is actually the structure behind the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame in Knoxville, Tennessee. That's me underneath the basketball. So that gives you an idea. They had all the dimples in there. We actually had to make all the dimples in these basketballs, or this one that we made there. That's me inside of it welding. And then there it is as a finished piece on the day that we installed it in ESPN, and everybody was there to acknowledge this amazing, crazy big basketball that we built. So then that company was starting to kind of go downhill because they had all their eggs in the basket of the Rainforest Cafe, and I got picked up by another company in the Twin Cities that made advertising props for billboards. And so they were mainly doing a lot of stuff for Times Square and out in LA, and all these giant billboards that were three-dimensional, a lot of times had moving parts on it and different things. So this is the structure underneath the JVC Globe in Times Square, and this is South America in fiberglass on the underside. So I literally went from the one company building a 27-foot diameter ball to a 26-foot diameter earth. Within like a couple months of each other. And there it is as a finished piece. It's changed now. The can letters that say JVC are actually, I think, LEDs now. 40-foot tall lava lamp, the bubbles floated up and down, it did lots of different things. So while I'm doing all this stuff, I'm actually training myself and refining my craft and getting better at what I'm doing and learning how to like build things out of materials I normally never use. And that's the great thing about being an artist is we adapt. We're adaptable. We can actually learn things fast and quick and pick them up and do what we need to do with them. And for me, it's always been, I've been always trying to maintain being an artist full-time as much as I can. And my other jobs are always a secondary. Even though I might be working those other jobs 40 hours a week, I'm putting in that much time into my art and my life as much as possible also. And I always let my employers know that when I go in, and that kind of freaks them out a little bit in the beginning, that I tell them that this is my secondary job and art's my full-time job. They don't quite believe me until I'm about 4 months in. But this is what I get to do, because this is a fun seating environment for a cancer facility for kids in St. Louis, Missouri. We've been building them boats and train cars and buses and all these fun little seating areas. So I get to build now. I've scaled myself back into the companies I'm working with and building smaller items. So I get to drive the bus on that one. And if you get to the Mall of America, we do a lot of stuff for that company too, for companies out there doing advertising for Nickelodeon, building all kinds of different crazy props. Pretty much everything three-dimensional in that we actually build. They're sending me out to Norwegian Cruise Lines to work on SpongeBob SquarePants, which I'm not really a fan of, which was really awesome because I actually got to destroy SpongeBob SquarePants and Patrick because they're not part of the Norwegian Cruise Line anymore. So they let me go in and actually completely destroy them and put them into dumpsters to replace them with other objects. So this is me getting to cut up SpongeBob and Patrick. And I have a lot of angry parents because this happened mid-cruise. This happened while the cruise was at sail with kids and families walking by. And it was like, as I'm like taking a sawzall and cutting their heads off and their arms off. It was absolutely crazy. So like I had parents, I'm going to the lunch line at the buffet and they're like, "You killed SpongeBob." And I'm like, yes, I did. I put it back in the ocean where it belongs, don't worry. Which I did not because that would be a bad thing to put it back in the ocean. So there he is cut up. And yeah, so that was, I got, SpongeBob kill up. So these are the new pieces that we replaced them with. Ones that do not have a tie to any corporation or anything. They're very generic, but they're very beautifully done. And that's what we reinstalled back on the ship. And those two actually spit water out, which was pretty cool. So, amidst all that, I'm also a furniture person. So I have a hard time just dedicating to one thing. Whenever I get stuck on something, I gotta go work on something else. And sometimes that's furniture, but furniture has also been one of those things that has always been able to make me easy money because I know how to build pretty much anything. So this is one of my very first furniture pieces in college I built. A wooden table I made for my parents' 35th wedding anniversary where I turned all the legs, did bit lamination, and a bunch of work. Got out, started making some other stuff for other clients and tables. And then that led to interior designers seeing my work and the custom candlesticks that are in the middle of the table. They're like, "Do you know how to make bronze things?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I kind of know how to make some bronze things. I can do that." So I custom made some pieces of cast bronze candlesticks, varying heights and everything. And then custom vanity, the little vanity in the bottom, and the custom light at the top, which turned into these lights also. Which that started me thinking about, wow, I can make some lights at some point here. This is kind of cool. I'm getting paid to make sculpture and functional objects. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. I've always thought of sculpture and furniture as the same thing, just one you can, utilize, and the other one you just look at. So this is where it led me to another point in my life where I actually moved to Chicago for a short bit, building custom high-end furniture for a bronze company, doing all the work for Holly Hunt, making bronze furniture, which is absolutely crazy. I couldn't even wrap my head around that. I'm like, bronze? That's like for sculpture, not furniture. Like, who paid money for a bronze table? Well, apparently there's a lot of people out there that buy bronze tables and bronze furniture. So this is the beginnings of some legs that I actually made for a table called the Juniper table for Holly Hunt's collection, and there it is, the finished bronze table. And there's another table that I did all the prototyping for and actually made all the custom elements for the legs. And we do a lot of woodwork and pattern. So knowing how to do woodworking, metalworking, when you do foundry, you got to know a lot of different things. And that's also my background and like a lot of my past, being a farmer and all these different things. I grew up working with a lot of different tools and applying a lot of knowledge. And it just, every time I'm working on a piece, I see how every bit of my life has come to this point of being able to make this one piece. And there it is with a finished cast glass top. And because of working at this company, I started getting to dabble in glass. And so that's kind of where some of this stuff is coming together, where I'm able to actually start working not only in metals, but friends of mine have given me opportunities to actually play in glass. And so this piece here, sheet, which is actually over there, that piece, it actually is deceptive. It's two pieces of iron that broke when it was coming out. It's so delicate. The iron is so delicate, which is kind of a, contrary to what everybody thinks of iron. Iron is a strong element. Well, in this case, the glass is actually the strong element. The glass is actually holding that piece together. Because I liked the piece so much, I wanted to find a way to still get it to function and stand and be a cohesive piece and enhance it. And that's how I was able to do with the glass. I'm actually playing with the glass and getting a glass sculptor that I know. A really good friend of mine, Pearl, was like, "Yeah, we can do that, let's do this." And she helped me make that piece work. So then that led to me working with the custom aluminum pieces with blown glass, and those are actually in the back there. And getting to play more with that, and finding out that, man, if I had a glass studio next to me, I'd be even more broke than I am right now, because glass is just on another level of really cool, fun, and immediate. Like, it's art that you have to be completely 100% present in, because you only have a small amount of time window for that glass to actually work, or it just shatters and breaks and falls off, and you got to start over. Which I really like that actually element of glass blowing. This is how these pieces are actually made. I'm going to show you a little bit of the process with these. I start out with an orange safety cone. If you look at it, you can totally see that's what the inside of this is. So from that orange safety cone, I actually get a sand casting in that and wrap a plastic bag around that inside core of the safety cone. So you can kind of see that's what's in those 5-gallon pails. And then I put another sand mold and around that then they look like this piece here. So this is one that actually has that little core inside of it still. So that's all one piece right now. And no metal is getting into that piece the way it is right now. So I take the inner core part and draw lines on it where I want to actually carve. So every one of these pieces is custom hand carved every time. So I carve out the lines, and then once the lines are carved in them, then I'm able to put it all back together and then cast aluminum directly into the piece. And the aluminum fills up the pathways like plumbing. So everything has to be connected, and these are the pieces before they actually got glass blown into them. And then there they are again, lit up and hanging. And these, getting to play with glass again, these are actually the Valhalla pieces on either side of the door, just after I pushed the bronze into them. So these things were actually liquid molten glass when I leaned into about a 1800-degree furnace and pushed the bronze into them to actually get them to do what I wanted them to do, which was to make them look like they were actually in water, about to sink, basically. More of the furniture stuff. Getting to actually learn more programs and computer things. I've had a bunch of projects recently that have led me to step outside of my comfort zone of only just using, welders and, tools that I have to with my hands, and going into the computer world and actually designing and building things, because the computer is as much of a tool for you as the welder is and everything else, because sometimes you need to be able to visualize and make things and sketch things out in a way that on the computer and show people exactly what you want is a great marketing tool and a selling tool. So over the years, I've been embracing technology a little more and being able to create objects and be able to actually, embrace that part of it. And the furniture has been taking off more too for me. So building really cool custom tables. And this is a table I just built for the president at Luther College for the home of whoever the president is. It'll live at that house forever now. It's actually a table that these outside little wings pull off and mount to the wall. So that when you're not using the full-size table and you only got 8 people to sit around it instead of like 14, you can pull those off and use them actually as a side table. And that was actually the president's idea. So she came to me and with her interior designer and said, "We have an idea, we don't know how to make it. Do you know how to make it?" And I was like, "Let me think about it." It took me about 3-4 months sitting around designing and drawing, but I was able to come up with this. They loved it. It is actually a functioning table now. And those are the sideboards. And then I got asked also to do a staircase in a house, which I curse staircases now. Staircases are the hardest things to build. I built 27-foot diameter basketballs, and they were easier than a staircase I had to build for this house. But I didn't build the whole house. I just built the walls around the staircase so I could actually do it. But this is this crazy staircase in this little tiny off-the-grid home that's run off of solar only in the middle of nowhere, northeast Iowa. But it turned out really amazing with the custom handrails that I built and custom brackets. And this is the stuff I really geek out on, is actually getting to make every element of something, not just buying the parts. I built it so that they could put LED lighting all the way down the underside of the handrail so they can actually illuminate the core of the house with LED lighting and nothing else, because they needed to be super energy efficient and not drain the batteries on their house any more than they had to. So this one light system that goes to the center of their staircase in the center of the house pretty much lights up, and they say they don't even turn on a lot of lights in the house at nighttime except for those. And they also change lights, change color too, which is kind of fun. And those are the custom brackets I had to make so that the LED lighting could actually go up the middle of the handrail. Because most handrail brackets all have just a center part, and you have to run your wiring around them. So whenever you run your hand up and down the staircase, you would actually clip the wires with your fingers. And so this eliminates that, and it's just kind of the level that my professor, Dean Wilson from MCAD, taught me this level of really being detailed and seeing every aspect and thinking about every part of a piece of furniture, to the point where if you have a piece of furniture that has flathead screws on them, they all got to be going east and west or north and south, or he would dock you a grade. Like that level of attention to detail, because if you see something with that level of attention to detail in it, it really makes a difference. So like really honing in and like really picking apart every element of it and making it the best possible thing, because these people are, you know, paying for excellence, and that's all I want to give them, is like the best piece. One of my favorite pieces I've got to do, through people talking about me, and oh, Kelly casts metal, he does all this crazy stuff. I got asked by a temple in northeast Iowa, a Buddhist temple, to actually make their traditional Buddhist temple bells. It took me about a year to figure out, design, and actually fully cast and bring back to them. And this is the installation when we installed it on December 31st, and we actually had a ceremony that night and rang it 108 times in about -5-degree weather. And I'm thinking this thing's going to be a Liberty Bell and crack because it's cold out. This is metal, but it hasn't, and it's been there for about 5 years now. But this is one of my all-time, all the stuff I've ever built, because of the level of how much this piece is cherished in that community and how much it means to them, because it wakes them up in the morning, it puts them to bed at night, and then it's only used on like ceremonial pieces. This 400-pound Buddhist temple bell is like one of my favorite pieces I've actually built because of that aspect of how much it's actually cherished. Everybody walks past the JVC globe and they're like, whatever. Because of my background also, another element that I actually do a lot of is I help other sculptors. There's a lot of sculptors that know how to make things but don't maybe know how to install them or figure out how to place them. So that's something else I've been asked to do. And this is actually a piece that was made by Sten Thorstad. She's an Icelandic female artist that came over and had a huge show to put up in Chicago right next to Millennium Park. And it's 13 iron figures and 13 aluminum figures that are all facing each other throughout this whole park system. So I was asked actually to help out with the installation of all these works. And it was so much fun, because instantly when we put these things in there, as soon as one of these pieces was mounted, people were coming up to it and interacting and becoming part of these pieces and getting their photos taken with it and hugging them. And it was just really amazing to see the impact that a piece of art can have on the community and the humanity around that area. It was really amazing. And then this afterwards, we actually got to go upstairs to one of the people that helped make this happen, that had a loft above the park and a rooftop balcony. And we got to go up there and have dinner and hors d'oeuvres and drinks and look down on the piece, which was amazing. It was so cool. This is another piece that was installed in just right next to downtown near one of the parks, where it's all lobster nets that this lady weaves back together into these crazy art pieces. And it was really challenging because this piece actually fell over because they didn't get it installed properly. So my friends and I actually got asked to come in, deinstall it, and then reinstall it stronger. And so I got to actually go in and do that. So that's another element of my life, of what I do besides just making my own art. I help facilitate other people making their art happen in public places, or installing them, or helping them manifest their ideas, because a lot of people don't know how to make their pieces. And that's where the education comes in for me, and it's been really strong in my background. Before I left college, my junior year, I got asked to actually teach a class in Decorah. In cast metal, whatever I wanted to, basically. They paid me to come back when I was a junior and teach a class in cast metals. And so I taught an aluminum class in cast metals in Decorah. Got a bunch of the public to help support it, got one of the local casting companies to donate all the aluminum, and just working with the community to get the community to come out and help support the arts on another level that they'd never thought of. So that was a lot of fun. So the education and teaching, I've had everything from a 4-year-old to a 90-year-old in my classes, and I actually really enjoy that because being able to get across a complex idea of how to cast metal or make something and break it down to a point that anybody can understand is one of the things that I'm really striving for and really working toward. And working with little kids is amazing, but working with everybody, when they're actually making their first art piece and they walk away with it, they're all little kids. I mean, they are, that's how they're acting when they get it, and it's like Christmas morning picking up their present. That's how everybody kind of reacts. And taking these out to artist communities where I'm actually doing things in other cities and other places, and taking it into like theme parks and different spots where I'm actually teaching other people how to cast metal. Really enjoying that right now. Teaching welding classes. I've been having a bunch of welding classes. I've been teaching in Zumbrota. It's a little town not too far from here. And I've done it in Milwaukee and Cedar Rapids and some other areas. This last year, one of my students who's taken my class about 6 times, she's retired, and went to a tech school to learn how to weld even better because she just wanted to. After taking my class, she was so inspired. She just wanted to continue education and keep welding and doing things. And that's what I want. I want to get people excited about what they're doing to a point where they want to continue it without me. I don't really care. I just want them to get excited about something and make something. Then it's on to mentoring. For me, passing this on, I keep kind of talking about that and teaching. This is a girl that I've been working with 7 years now, 6, 7 years. When I met her, she wasn't casting any metal. She was kind of lost in her art form, didn't know where she wanted to go. Her name's Ylvisaker, and we happened to serendipitously move to Madison at the same time. And we got a studio together, and she started watching me casting metal and started watching me making molds and doing everything. She's like, I want to make like a Wisconsin cast iron frying pan. I'm like, I can help you do that. I can show you how to do that. Next thing I know, I think I want to make the rest of the Midwest. All right, let's do that. Next thing I know, she does the entire continental sites. And I was like, all right, we can do this, but we got to go to a professional foundry because we can't knock these out fast enough. And so she showed this at Art Prize in Michigan, where Bill was just recently for a show. She got this together to show there, and we had to knock out these pieces so fast that we went to a professional foundry that I'm friends with in the Twin Cities, and we made basically from the Mississippi over in like 3 days. And it was outstanding. And it kind of gave her this idea. She's like, oh my God, this is possible on this kind of level? I'd never really thought about it in that way. And I was like, well, yeah, industry can help you, maximize your time and your product in that. So now she's actually has a company called American Skillet Company, and you can go into some major high-end cooking stores like Cooks on Crocus in St. Paul and some other places and buy the Midwest, basically, in cookware, in cast iron frying pans, and Texas and New York, and I can't remember the other states. And then this is kind of my final slide with Michael Bigger. He's the guy. He's the guy that inspired me to be a sculptor. He's the one that was like, you're a good photographer, but you can be a great sculptor. And just taking in everything around you and the people that have such an impact on your life that is amazing. But that's the show right there. I'm going to show my movie now. This is kind of the finale of everything. This is kind of where everything's built up to this one point now where I met a professor at Luther College who's the head of communications, Thomas Johnson, and we met at a Halloween party in Decorah when I was living there, and that was like 4 or 5 years ago. And he always kept it in the back of his mind. He's like, man, that guy's kind of interesting. I want to make a movie about him someday. Well, the school, and I think he got an arts grant that allowed for him to make whatever movie he wanted to do. And so the college said, yeah, go with it. We'll give you, some money to help pay for it. And he calls me up and he goes, hey, Kelly, can I follow you around with the film crew for about 3 weeks? And I'm like, sure, sounds cool. Didn't know where that was going to end up, but here it is. And it's pretty cool. I'm excited about it.
Iron is, if you think of it on a cosmic level and then on a human level, iron is the core of the earth. Iron is, what is the core of what we are standing on. It's what made this place. It's in a lot of our world and what we do. We cook with iron. sensibility with 3D that not a lot of people did because of my background growing up on the farm. I already knew how to use all the tools. I knew how to build things. Conceptually, I knew how things should go together and aesthetically how they should look. So those kind of things came in handy, and I just naturally did it, and it just felt natural and easy in that. So that's when my professors were like, you know, you're a good photographer, but you can be a great sculptor, and that's where I kind of found my core group of people that I clicked more with. Hardworking, just really tough people that had the same ideas I did. So that was kind of my new home. My mom was diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease, and it was the right time for me to move back home. All the work I was doing was building my house and working for these other companies, you know, honing my skills. And but when I moved back to the farm, one of my goals was like, I'm going to be back here. I can make art. I can start making art again finally, after being away for so long. The second year that we had down on the farm, my mom passed away 5 days before the door. Everybody was calling up, you know, they heard about it right away, because within my iron circle, we're such a close-knit family. I found a family in art that just really is incredible. I mean, they have the same kind of work ethic, the same kind of ideas that I have about what I'm doing. And they're very giving. They're not like, a lot of the other art forms end up being very like, this is my idea, I don't want anybody else to know about it, because, you know, somebody might take it and make their own thing out of it. The iron community is just like, if somebody figured something out, they tell everybody about it, because they want it to help perpetuate the knowledge and to help everybody else get to that level faster. And maybe we can take the art world, you know, the iron art world to another level. The more that we do this, the more that we, you know, show each other our own techniques. If you hold on to this knowledge and you go to it with your grave, you're not helping out the rest of the world. You need to keep passing this on. Iron just has this thing with it that is, I think just because you're basically casting iron the same way they've done it for a couple thousand years, and it feels when you're doing it very primal, very, very raw, and that work ethic, that has just always been a part of me, and then and part of my work too. It's just like getting in there, and, you know, and I don't, you know, getting dirty is nothing, you know, that just shows you did something. Kind of almost got like a bee's nest kind of like thing, where everybody got all these little workers that are breaking iron, and then you got these other workers that are putting together other things, breaking up the fuel source, and you got other workers that are making food for the whole crew, you know, which that's a big part of it too, because you got to keep everybody fed to keep working in that. And so you got all these little different groups that are all doing their own little things, and then a group putting the furnace together and making sure everything's ready for that. And it's all these different groups that are working together for a common good, which is the end all is the night where we actually cast iron and melt the metal. You got a specific crew that's on the furnace, keeping the furnace happy, and then you got a crew that's around that is carrying the pots of metal and pouring the metal out. So you have all these different little groups that are all symbiotic, working together for a common good. You think of iron as such a hard, durable substance, and here we are turning it into looking like water. I mean, that's an incredible thing. I mean, when this furnace gets going, it's definitely, you know, it's an entity that's in there, like cooking, and, you know, and I'm just trying to like be a part of that furnace when it's doing that, and understand it and be in a way that isn't harmful to it, and that allows it to do what it wants to do, which is just make metal. I mean, once it gets going, all it wants to do is cast molten metal, and that's the energy that it wants. And I always try to, whenever I'm working on the furnace, I'm trying to, you know, when I'm ramming the bottom and I'm getting everything prepped and ready for it and lighting the furnace, I always want to be there as a part of that, because I feel like I carry some of that energy of the furnace with me wherever I go. And that I'm trying to give that energy back into the furnace when I'm lighting the furnace. But then at the very end of the furnace, I'm, you know, and I'm holding space for that energy to come back to me. So when we take the furnace and we drop the bottom of the furnace, and, you know, release all that energy back out, and it goes back to the earth for the most part, some of that energy I'm taking back with me to take to the next furnace. It's kind of that, kind of like the mother in kombucha or whatever, you know, I'm holding on to the stuff that I can actually take on to the next furnace, or friendship bread, or whatever you want to call it, you know, it's like this same kind of mentality, but my friends kind of laugh at me and they think it's funny, but that's just how I see it. Iron casting means to me, oh man, it's an evolution, I guess, for me. It's just like being able to take something from nothingness and create something that then you have to, like, I don't know, just like making it into this newfound piece, you know, I don't know, it's just like you're creating something, you're birthing something every time you're doing the metal casting. The same thing with the furnace too. I mean, you're building this furnace that you're gonna, feed it, and you're kind of like it's a child almost, and you're hoping it grows up to be something great. With this, you're hoping that it's going to give you lots of metal that then can give you lots of offspring, like lovely castings. It's just incredible. I don't know. It's a life cycle. It's just each one of these castings, and every time we do an iron pour, it's just this beautiful, small little cosmos or whatever of life, or a little, I don't know, I'm trying to think of other ways of describing it. It's tough for me because it's such a big part of my world and my life right now, and what I do, and the family, and it's the camaraderie. It's that same thing. It's that family, that large group family that I have access to now. That's just that have been brought into my life because of iron. None of these people I would have known without iron, and there's just some of my best friends are because of that. Lots of them. It's amazing how many people. But I'm trying to think of iron. I know it's for me it's life, and that's kind of the best way for me. It's my life, my lifestyle, I guess, and how I live it is very much iron.
I know most people ask about what that explosion was. The explosion was, if you see the pieces in the back of the room that look really fragmented and look like shards. One of them kind of looks like the Eiffel Tower, and the other one is another temple back by the back windows. Those are made inside of a plywood stack box, or we'll sometimes even just do like stumps that we find that are very interesting, that are hollowed out, that have maybe rotted on the inside. We'll actually mount those down to something so that they're actually solid on the bottom, and then cast metal into them. Well, wood has moisture in it, and when you actually pour molten 2600 degree metal into something that has moisture in it, you get basically a mini hydrogen reaction happening where you're splitting them, and it's the basis of like a steam engine. When you actually heat something up so much that it actually goes to steam, that reaction is explosive, or it has a force to it that you can either harness, and in this case, we're just letting it go. And that's what's happening, is it's basically molten metal reacting to moisture inside of a piece, and then basically ground level fireworks happen. And we're all geared up for it. We're all wearing aluminized Kevlar or leather or gear. We have special gear that is made to have where molten metal can hit us and roll off us, which is actually kind of makes you feel pretty tough. It's really cool. I absolutely love it. I want to just take a couple quick questions if somebody wants to ask any questions. Now, anybody have other questions?
Yeah, you get the iron from bathtubs and radiators. Where do you get aluminum?
Well, aluminum, I mean, that's something that they make so much of that, I mean, I sometimes actually like taking things from the scrapyard, like buy them from them, scrap aluminum, like engine parts from lawnmowers and weed whackers and all those kind of things are mostly aluminum to keep them lightweight. So I'll take those and repurpose them. But there's supply stores around where you can actually go buy ingots of aluminum. And that's where most people kind of get it, but when I'm doing demonstrations, I actually like to use the engine parts and all that other stuff just to keep showing the automatic recycling that we can do with this. And aluminum is so easy because it melts at like 1200 degrees, and I can do it anywhere pretty much with probably a leaf blower and LP cylinder, and that's probably about it. Blowtorch, something I can melt aluminum pretty easily. Yeah.
I know you say it's a huge family style event, but what would be the minimum amount of people that would be doable to do it for?
Well, there's some people that have prided themselves on being able to do a one-person show with iron, and they've hooked up the furnace to have a pivot point on it, so that they don't need two people to run the ladle and lay out their molds in an arc and everything. So you can do that. It is so much work, and I really like my friends, and it's kind of my time to get together and hang out with my friends, that I really enjoy that aspect of it. You know, because when we're doing this, I mean, we're literally hanging out for 2-3 days usually, working together and helping each other out and troubleshooting, like looking at other people's, because we get some people that come in and are like, all right, I found this tire tread on the side of the road and I really want to cast it. How do I do that? And we'll do that. We'll actually make that happen for them. I mean, it's kind of, that's my favorite part about it. Yeah, I can cast aluminum and bronze by myself if I really want to. And I don't mind doing that on occasion, but iron is so much harder. Iron's really tough to do by yourself. It's very physical. Eric?
When I heard you talk last year at the film festival, you had said that Wayne Potratz was kind of confused by the idiosyncratic way that you pour metal. Can you get into that a little bit? This isn't your traditional iron pour, is it?
Well, Wayne comes from, he is in the lineage of iron casting, because iron casting has only really been around since the 60s. I mean, yes, they've cast iron industrially for a long time, but iron as an art form and using it for art really didn't happen until the 60s, when this guy, Julius Schmidt, who everybody considers as the godfather of modern art iron casting. He's the guy that took it out of industry, built a small furnace off of the ideas of their furnaces, and made it so it was a backyard furnace that he could actually light up and cast with his students whenever he wanted to. Well, there's a bunch of old iron casters that are retiring now that were his students that learned from him, and they learned using very industrial, and Wayne's literally wrote the book. He has a book called Hot Metal on traditional iron casting techniques, and he actually really enjoys going back and researching and studying ancient techniques for casting metal. So he's pretty linear on his ways of thinking about it, and I've told him some times what I was thinking about doing and some ideas, and he'd say, oh, that doesn't work. And then I'll do it and it'll work, and I'll show him the piece afterwards, and he's like, I knew I shouldn't have said that to you, because that just pushes me to make it work. I'll figure out a way, and I've had a lot of people with the glass stuff too that said, well, you can't cast glass and aluminum together, or glass and iron together, because the shrink coefficient between them is totally different and doesn't work. Well, I did it, and then it worked, and they're like, well, that shouldn't work. And I'm like, well, it worked. But Wayne and I have we have a really healthy respect for each other, and and this coming 30th Iron Pour at the University of Minnesota's Turkey Day Pour, I'm actually the guest artist there. I've been his guest artist a couple of times. And he's just, the way I approach things is completely outside the box of what he's used to. And he's he's an amazing artist, and his work is gorgeous, and don't get me wrong, I have nothing but respect for the guy. But I come at things from a totally different way, especially from when I was talking about when we learned at MCAD. We didn't have Wayne as a professor. Michael Bigger, my professor, was a fabricator. He knew how to weld and build big sculpture. But he saw our passion for wanting to cast and helped us along the way with it, and tried to put people in front of us that knew how to cast, but a lot of the times we were out there kind of winging it and trying to, failing a bunch and learning from our failures. And that's where I think I got kind of a leg up on a lot of these people, because there's times where people are like, oh, I just shut the furnace down, I'd stop, it's not working right. And I'm like, no, I can work through this, I can figure this out. I've seen it happen one other time when we had a failure like this, and we made it work because we did a few other things and we persevered through something, instead of just throwing up our hands and saying, oh, it's done, it's broke. We would find a way to fix it, make it work, and just keep going. And that's just one of the things that I think I have over a lot of other metal casters. I didn't have somebody holding my hand throughout all this process saying, well, that doesn't work, that works, do it exactly like this. I came at it from a kind of a different route that gave me pretty good confidence now about what I can do, and also what I can also, exceed at and learn more. And always learning at every event I go to. And one of the big things I did learn early on, though, is I go to these events and I'd hang out with like Wayne Potratz and one of his other contemporaries, George Beasley out of Georgia State, and a lot of those guys. I would just show up at their events and pretend like I didn't know anything and start walking around like, hey, what are you doing? Can you show me? Can you teach me? I just want to learn, and pretend like I didn't know anything. And that worked until one of those guys saw me, and they'd come up and like give me a hug and shake my hand, and the students would be like, you know what you're doing? And I'm like, no, but I want to find out what they're doing, and I want to know what they're learning from these people too. And I want to know that I don't know, I'm always curious on the path of knowledge and seeing if it's actually being passed down, and just learning from other people is always important. Helps you be a better teacher. Anybody else? Eric?
Are there patinas on some of these, or is that like the bottles?
Well, a lot of the really shiny ones are just natural. That's how they look when they come right out of the castings. The rust red ones, I'm purposely like actually attacking those with salt water to get them to look like that after they've been cast. And some of them I've done that with, and then I've actually gone and made with like gun gluing. I keep a lot of my patinas very simple. I don't really like doing a lot of the really toxic acids and different things that you can do to it. I like the raw metal in its natural state, which rust is one of its natural states, and keeping it pretty natural. I just like that look. All right. Oh.
Have you ever thought of doing a patent on anything like I was thinking of your railing, with a wire? Would you ever think of marketing thinking that you create to mass produce?
I don't know how it is. I just like to make things that if people see it and they like it, they can copy it. I've passed on the knowledge of the rolling molds I literally did it online to a lady that wanted to do it, where she wanted to do a rolling mold of a corset that she was using in a show. And she was in London and had heard about my work and looked me up and then sent me a message, how do you do this? I sent her videos, I sent her like written diagrams and descriptions of how I do it, kind of photo documenting everything, and she sent me back a photo of the finished piece. It was really cool. But this is knowledge that has been given to me. I'm just passing it on. Yeah.
So, given the communal nature of your art and the comment that you just made, would you be disappointed if you saw something similar to what you've done on a mass production scale? Because it seems like you're really into the idea of sort of small scale production.
I don't know, it hasn't happened yet, so. Yeah, I don't know, if somebody was really, I have a hard time understanding how anybody could really mass produce any of the stuff I do, just because my work isn't made to look, even upstairs there's a row in the little curio cabinet that I got up there, there's a row of bottles. They're little Buddha beer bottles that I did, 8 of them. And not one of them's the same. And that's part of my work. That's part of my element. Even when I make custom things like those candlesticks that I made, those are made from a mold that I'm actually pulling out. And after I pull them out and I'm working them in wax, I actually purposely put flaws in all of them so that you look at them and they look all exactly the same from a distance. You get up close and you start noticing little things that are anomalies between each of the pieces, just because I don't want them to be all the same. I want people to know that these are handmade, that I actually touched every one of those things. It wasn't just knocked out and left, I don't know. That's just me personally. That's how I deal with it. But I might be a little irritated. I've seen some people have sent me pictures of stuff that's similar, where they're knocking stuff out, but it still doesn't have that same life to them, I guess. I like to think that my pieces, with this show in particular, Artifacts, what I'm trying to do with this stuff is I want people to find my stuff in like 400 or 500 years and not know when it was made. Like, they're not going to come back and say, yeah, that's from 1990-ish, 2010, They're going to look at it and be like, we can't even place this. carbon dating's not working on them, I don't know what's going on, but these things look like they belong about 1,000 years earlier than they're actually showing up in the rubble of these JVC globes and, you know, stupid things, you know, the weird things that I'm building for industry. They're gonna end up amongst that kind of stuff, and I'm gonna be like, you know, good luck figuring out when that was made, you know, because that's part of the fun I love about these things. Yes, I know how to cast pieces and make perfect objects. I did that for, you know, when I was building the furniture for Holly Hunt, because they had a phrase that these designers love to use on us when we were building furniture called perfectly imperfect. I hate that phrase. I want to punch people when I hear that phrase, because that's them not, like, definitely saying they want something perfect. They want a little bit of a flaw in it, but no matter how little of a flaw you put in it, they're going to say it's either too perfect or not perfect enough every time you show it to them, because they still want that last little say of like, oh, well, we still want to change a little bit. Can you just go back and redo that every time, no matter what? You can make 20 of them exactly the same, and they're going to pull that on you, and I hate that. So I know how to make perfect things. I can do that. So in my own personal artwork, this is where I love to make the objects where I have control over the basic shape, but I'm kind of giving up a little bit of that control in the instant, in the moment of when I'm getting the metal, because the metal is going to be different temperatures. It's going to be, depending on what's going on outside, how hurried and rushed I am and how many times I roll it. And you saw in the video when I grabbed that one mold and I was actually picking it up and spinning it. That's what I'm doing. That's how I'm creating those things. So just a lot of variables come into how those actually come out and how the holes show up. Those are all just, you know, happy accidents that I tend to use as my art form and my choice of how I want to make my stuff. I don't know. That was kind of a divergent from that question, but hopefully it explains it a little better, maybe. All right. Well, hopefully everybody got a chance to walk around. We do have 2 floors of work. There's actually a whole row of artwork up top, too. Little cabinets. Everything in here is for sale, but that one piece there, the one in the middle that's on the triangle piece, this piece, sacred. The reason it's not for sale is because it's the very first piece I made in the rolling mold technique, but it also, a year after my mom passed, she was in my dreams carrying it to me in my dream. And so now this piece went from being called Lacey to being called Georgia, which was my mom's name. So my mom inhabits that piece now, and that's why that's the only piece. Everything else is for sale, but that piece is not. That one's special to me. Thanks everybody for coming out. I really appreciate it. Great show. I appreciate everybody coming out. It's awesome.